Today on Locked On Red Wings, thank goodness the Olympic break is here as the Red Wings have fallen to Utah 4-1.
You're Locked On Red Wings, your daily podcast on the Detroit Red Wings. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to the Locked On Red Wings podcast. We are your hosts, Brian Fisher and Scotty Bentley, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And you can listen to us ad-free if you go to lockedonpodcast.com/everydayer and sign up for the Everydayer Club. It's a $5 a month subscription. You get access to all our episodes ad-free, as well as access to an exclusive Discord server in which you can communicate with Scotty and I. Scotty, I don't necessarily want to communicate about this game, to be frank with you. Late night loss. Thank you. Late night loss to the Utah Mammoth in Utah. We are recording this at 12:03 in the morning. So it's we are tired. We're going to power through, though, to give the people the content that they deserve, even though the Wings didn't give them a game that the fans deserve. First thoughts on this 4-1 loss, man?
I mean, that was honestly, we look at the losses that they've had over the last couple of months. There are certainly losses that they were flatter in, or that they, I don't know, like didn't play up to expectations in, or were just worse in. Like, this was not, like some catastrophic, oh my goodness, this is the worst game I've ever seen type of loss. But it was just one of those, like, we talked about it going into the night. I mean, Utah is a really good team at even strength, one of the best in all of hockey. And I think that they showed that throughout. I also think that the continued lack of production early in hockey games is really something that is starting to like get on my last nerve with this team. And I think that in this game, it kind of reared its head more than maybe in others, just because Utah got 2 goals early. But yeah, I mean, I think it's you can match a team for 50 minutes. If they score 2 goals in the first 10, you're going to lose. Like, you know what I mean? Right. I mean, that I think is worth pointing out. And as, I mean, you've been very vocal about, the offense taking a step back over the last week-ish, maybe a little bit less than that, the last 3 or 4 games, certainly. And it just hasn't looked as sharp as it has all season. And this game, I mean, certainly was no different. They were a 6-on-4 at the end of the game away from getting shut out to end not the first half, but the pre-Olympic break part of the season. So yeah, I mean, just a disappointing game. And again, I mean, you look throughout it, I don't think they got outplayed at like a clip that we're going to look back on and be like, wow, that was unbelievably terrible. But again, when you dig yourself in a hole early, you need to outplay the other team then, to compensate for that. And I certainly don't think they ever did that really throughout the rest of the evening. So.
Yeah, I mean, there are 2 thoughts that are dominating my mind after this game, and one of them is a macro-level problem, one of them is a micro-level problem. And I guess I'll start with the micro-level problem, which is how that game began. And, I mean, they play into each other. This is another game in which the Red Wings just started flat. And it's a problem. The Red Wings know it's a problem, and yet they can't seem to solve it. They came out after a 5-0 butt whooping from Colorado and played a fantastic game, but then they went right back to playing flat again. They came out, their forecheck wasn't doing anything. They all game long, they struggled to transition out of the zone through the neutral zone and get any real dangerous chances. Obviously, they kind of got their feet underneath them in the second period, and were, like you said, you went toe-to-toe with them for period 2 and 3, but what does that matter when you're down 2-0? And that's where on the micro level, it's like that start really killed them. Like that shot from Sean Durzi along the boards, like John Gibson he wasn't ready for a shot there, and like that's not good. And while I'm not going to sit here and like tear down John Gibson, because again, he's been very, very good for them since the start of December, but like you got to be ready for a shot there. Yes, DeBrincat missed the puck, and DeBrincat shares part of the blame there, but like players whiff on pucks. That happens. You can't not be ready for the puck just because you're expecting DeBrincat to make the play there. Like, you got to be set and ready for if he fans on it, because that does happen. So you're down 1-0, 57 seconds into the game, and then the officiating was so bad in the first period. That missed call on the slash from, was it Krause, right to Dylan Larkin's groin from the faceoff circle, and Larkin fell like a bag of sand because he got hit in the groin.
You got hit in the bag of sand, yeah.
Yeah, hit in the bag of sand. How do you miss that?
I don't know, man.
I do not condone Larkin's response, right? Like, I'll never condone retaliation, but I won't say I don't understand it. Because as a hockey player and as a guy, there's very few things that get you hot faster than, and there's two things in my mind. Number one's obviously getting hit in the groin, which is what happened here, and especially when no call is made. Two, slew foots. As a hockey player, slew foots get me heated faster than anything else. Well, besides obviously number one there. So I don't condone what Dylan Larkin did. I think that, you put your team who was already down on the penalty kill down another man. They ultimately scored on that 5-on-3, but I can't say I don't understand it.
Yeah.
So then the power play ends after they score the 5-on-3, and the regular power play ends after that. Larkin beats out an icing by, he was behind both defenders, and they call it an icing, and it comes all the way back down. And then this was the right call, but then just like the bizarre off the glass, the curved glass into the net. It was a weird first period, but ultimately the Red Wings are responsible for the outcome of that first. And it's because, again, they came out flat, which again leads into the macro, which you've already touched upon, which is like their offense has been non-existent for the greater part of the last 5 games. And it's the same problem they went through in November, and it's showing its ugly head again. And thankfully, they can thank their lucky stars that the Olympic break is here, actually. Not even coming, it's here for them. So they have, most of the team has time to kind of just relax and kind of get their bodies back, because it's looking really rough right now. Their offense has been non-existent.
Yeah, I mean, certainly. And that is, I don't know. I mean, that's certainly something that going into the trade deadline and coming out of the Olympic break is going to be under the microscope. And we've talked about that a lot. They're in the market for, reportedly, in the market for a 2C, or even if it's a wing, like somebody they can put on that top line even. Like that feels like less. I feel like a month ago I would have said that the blue line was a need, and anybody on any forward they would have gotten would have been more of a want or like a luxury. And now and maybe I'm overreacting to just a downturn of a week or whatever, but it just feels more and more like both of those things are needs at this point. It's not really like one is more important than the other. It feels like they're both pretty much necessities to get this team to the next level, if that's the goal this year.
I think both are huge needs. And I think for the longest time, like you said, the defense was the bigger need, but now the offense is kind of giving the defense a run for its money with the lack of production. I mean, they've been bailed out by 3 or 4 guys who have scored all their goals, plus James Van Riemsdyk, who got randomly hot. Outside of JVR, they've had very little depth scoring. You need a top-line left wing long-term solution, and you would love an upgrade over Andrew Kopp at 2C. He's been doing a fine job, but he is not a true 2C on a Stanley Cup team, right? Like there are, as well as the Wings have played over the scope of the entire season, there are areas to improve. And again, the last 5 games, their power play is, what did I say before we recorded? 2 for the last 23 power play opportunities.
It was over 20 for sure, yeah.
And like in December and January, we've seen a downward trend of their 5-on-5 play. And like in years past, their power play has been so good, or their goaltending recently has been so good, that those two things have been able to kind of mask how poor the 5-on-5 play has been becoming, especially from like your leaders like Dylan Larkin and Lucas Raymond. But now the power play is not doing that. And the Red Wings in the last 3 games, Scotty, 4 games, have had 1 5-on-5 goal, and that was the game opening goal by Marco Kasper against Colorado, because your 1 goal against Utah came with a power play which snapped like an 0 for 19 streak, and you needed a goalie pulled to have a 6-on-4 power play in order to do so, because the power play has been putrid again. So you have the one 5-on-5 goal against Colorado. Obviously, you got blanked against Colorado the game before. Was that one goal against Washington before the 2 empty netters? That had to have been 5-on-5 then, because the power play has been getting blanked. And then your one goal against LA was goalie pulled again. You have 1, 2 5-on-5 goals in like the last 5 games. That's simply put not good enough. Yeah. I don't understand how the offense comes out flat every single game. They know what the problem is, and they're working towards it, but they just can't seem to solve it outside of the one game against Colorado in which they played fantastic. I know I'm sounding very frustrated because we record in the moment, and that's just what we do, and I am very frustrated at the moment because the offense has been a problem. But again, teams go through this. This is the second time they've gone through this slump in a season in which they've played very good. But it doesn't also mean you can dismiss those concerns either.
I agree.
Scotty, let's head to segment 2 when we return. I do have some good news for Red Wings fans. That comes with a little bit more bad news, but we'll get to that, as well as just more in general breakdown of this game before talking a little bit about the Artemi Panarin trade in segment 3. Stay tuned to segment 2 of Locked On Red Wings. If you've ever hired someone who looked good on paper but wasn't the right fit, you know how important that is. When you want candidates who truly match what you're looking for, trust Indeed's sponsored jobs. Hiring Indeed is all you need. Stop struggling to get your job posts seen on other sites. Indeed sponsored job posts put your job at the top of the page and help you reach the right candidates faster. If I needed to hire someone like for this show yesterday, I'd go straight to Indeed and be very specific about what I need. Real experience, not just a resume buzzword. Instead of struggling to get your job posts seen, Indeed sponsored jobs helps your listing stand out and reach quality candidates faster. According to Indeed data, sponsored job posted directly on Indeed are 90% more likely to hire than non-sponsored jobs. Spend more time interviewing candidates and who check all your boxes with less stress, less time, and more results using Indeed sponsored jobs. Listeners of this show get a $75 sponsored job credit to help give your job the premium placement it deserves at Indeed.com/lockedon. Just go to Indeed.com/lockedon right now and support this show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Terms and conditions apply.
Indeed, they do.
All right, Scotty, I got one more piece of good news / bad news. Which side of that coin do you want first?
I feel like everybody always wants to start with the bad news so that they can end with good news. So we'll do that.
Okay, so the bad news is with the game that Buffalo plays on Wednesday, or Thursday rather, if they beat Pittsburgh, they will supplant you for a divisional seed, knocking the Red Wings down to a wild card based on points percentage. All 3 teams, if Buffalo wins, Montreal, Detroit, and Buffalo will have the same amount of points, but both Montreal and Buffalo will have the divisional seeds based on games played because they both have a game in hand. So the Red Wings going into the Olympic break might be a wild card team after months of being a divisional seed. That's the bad news. The good news is the Red Wings are going to have a playoff spot going into the Olympic break by at least 7 points. So obviously that has shrunk from the 9 points it was the day prior, because Columbus is on like a 10-1 streak since hiring a brand new head coach. But the Red Wings going into break have a 7-point gap on the playoff line with rest coming. Trade deadline still ahead of them, in which they have to be a buyer. We've set that standard. They've got to buy. They're still firmly in the driver's seat to make the playoffs. So that's where I want to, while I'm frustrated and the concerns we've raised are definitely valid because this Red Wings team is far from perfect, I want to calm the waters on the whole collapse. I know it's in everyone's head. It's in my head. I've thought about it what if they do it again? Because they did it 2 years ago, even more notably than all the others. But just because it's happened in the past doesn't mean it's going to happen again. And the Red Wings are firmly in control of their own destiny right now. And I think this team, more than any of the teams prior to this season, has earned adding at the deadline.
Yeah, and I think that's to me, one of the, if not the biggest reason as to why I'm really not even close to like panic button yet, to be honest with you. I'm not sure that thought has even really creeped into my head yet. And I'm sure, if they keep losing, obviously it will at some point. But this is they are just not winning and losing games the same way that they have in years past. That they are not, the wins don't seem lucky and unsustainable. The losses aren't complete embarrassments. Like there's just, it really is a different team and a different structure and under different coaching outside of obviously, I guess, the second half of last season. But I don't know. I have that faith a little bit more, and obviously they've earned the cushion that they have is because they've been winning, right? And 7 points into the Olympic break, if that ends up being it, it sucks to fall out of a divisional spot, but we know that this division's crazy good, and we know that it takes you lose 2 games in a row, you fall from first to sixth, like at one point, right? Like we've known that all year. That hasn't changed all year, and the fact that they are still right there, just because they've fallen out doesn't mean they can't win a few games and hop back up. I think we're just so predetermined into thinking like, oh, once the slide starts, it's just going to turn into an avalanche because that's what it has done for 3 years in a row. But I really feel very differently about this team than I have in the last 3. And maybe like I'm an idiot. I mean, maybe that's that. Don't comment on that. But maybe that's, you know what I mean? I mean, that's just my view. Like, that doesn't mean anything to anybody. But I don't know. I think they've at least earned the benefit of the doubt this year, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And I agree with you. And I think that might be the biggest thing for me is just that they are in a position where they almost certainly will add at the deadline. And they absolutely should be pretty aggressive in adding at the deadline. And that hopefully snuffs out any last concern maybe about an epic collapse.
Pivoting back to this game, as we can't help but get a little macro when talking about losses like this and concerns going into the Olympic break and the deadline. The first period obviously was their worst period. I do feel like the second period, they really turned the tides. And by the third period, with the third period push, they were the better team of the two. Obviously, too little too late at that point. You've put yourself in a 2-0 hole. It's really hard to battle back. Periods 2 and 3, I feel the real big difference maker, besides the Red Wings' general inability to score. But I thought Vejmelka in net was very good in this game. He made 29 saves in this hockey game. A lot of those came in period 2 and 3, and the Red Wings, while they struggled to generate consistent offense, they had a lot of good opportunities off the rush in particular. Not establishing the zone, not establishing a cycle or consistent zone pressure, a whole heck of a lot, but a lot of opportunities off the rush, and particularly in the third period, and that kept the Red Wings out of it. I did think Vejmelka had a really good game.
Yeah, no, I mean, completely agree. And I think that, goes kind of without saying. You can expand that to the whole team. This was a great performance by him, but certainly wasn't a one-man show. I mean, they played really well at even strength for a majority of the game.
I think as far as notable performers go, Moritz Seider played 30 minutes and 34 seconds in this hockey game. And I mean, like, I know we beat that point to death every single episode, but when Moritz Seider went out, I made a tweet and I said the 28 minutes that Seider is going to play a night is going to be a nice warm-up for the 35 he's going to play in Milan. And I was only half joking because I think we all as Red Wings fans knew that with Edvinsson out and who else was on the defensive unit, that a lot of this extra burden was going to, of course, fall on Seider, and he's carried it like a champ. 30 minutes again in this hockey game, 30 minutes, 34 seconds. He had 20 minutes by second intermission. Albert Johansson played 22 minutes in this game. I think Albert Johansson's continued to come along, but I mean, can't help but shout out Moritz Seider as, he's doing as much as he can. And honest to God, like, we talk a lot about, Scotty, and we opened the episode kind of talking about how the offense has almost been, actually, I won't even say borderline, it has been the bigger issue in this slump rather than the defense. And I think that's because despite this defense's flaws, they've given it the best shot that they can without Simon Edvinsson. I mean, Jacob Bernard-Docker is no world beater. He's a third pair defenseman, but he's been doing the best he can in that role on the top pair. Albert Johansson, I feel, has stepped up. Travis Hamonic had a nice fight in this hockey game and actually, had the better end of Chris Tanev, rather. I find it hard to find fault in the defense when the offense is the reason why they're losing hockey games, in my opinion. I think the defense is doing the best they can with the situation.
Yeah, I think part of it, too, is like expectations were lowered when Edvinsson went out. Whereas, you know what I mean? Like, expectations go down when the second best defenseman gets hurt. Nobody, was removed from the offense, and it just got worse. So I think it's maybe a little bit of like you're seeing it through a different lens type of thing. And I agree with you. I'm not saying you're wrong for thinking that. It's just, I think perspective and the nuance is important with that kind of stuff too. But yeah, I don't disagree with you. It's not as though the defense has single-handedly been losing them every game since Edvinsson got hurt. I completely agree with you. And the offense certainly has been, taking a decent, I would say, step back over the last week or so. And that's incredibly disappointing. We already talked about the power play and well, we went through both, right? You brought up the 5-on-5 goals and you brought up the power play goals over the last week or so. And that's, neither of them look very good at the moment. So here we are.
No. The only goal in this game was scored by Dylan Larkin. It was that late third period.
6-on-4, yeah.
Yeah, 6-on-4 power plays. Red Wings had pulled their goalie trying to do anything to get one back, and they did. They broke the shutout.
The old 6-on-4, though, you don't see that. Especially with 5 minutes left. You don't see that too terribly often at the NHL.
I mean, at that point, what's the difference between losing 3-0 and 4-0, right? Like, go all in, sell for offense, and it worked for that instance. Moritz Seider, borderline. You think that was intentional? It was a nice play off the boards by Seider.
I mean, I'm gonna say it was intentional.
The puck comes back out front, and Dylan Larkin bangs it home. It's his 26th goal of the season. It is kind of crazy with as much as we've been talking about the lack of 5-on-5 production from Dylan Larkin. He's still tracking to have the most goals of his career. Like, he's got 26 right now. His career high is 33, and he's got 25 games to break his career high. Yeah. So bizarre. It's been a weird season for Dylan Larkin. Comes out crazy hot and has been ice cold.
It's been a weird season for a lot of guys because of the way that the schedule got laid out alone, I'm sure impacts them a lot.
And despite that, they're in a divisional seed and they're 7 points above the playoff line going into the Olympic break. So, Scotty, let's head to a break. When we return, I want to ask your opinion on the Artemi Panarin trade because that I think it's fair to say it shocked the hockey world, at least at first.
For sure.
So stay tuned for segment 3 of Locked On Red Wings. Scotty, I am very glad we talked about Artemi Panarin when we did because that could not have been better timed. If only we had intentionally planned that, we would have looked like geniuses if we had insider knowledge because the day we do our Artemi Panarin conversation, he is traded that very same day. He is dealt to the LA Kings for former first-round draft pick Liam Greentree and conditional third and a conditional fourth. And New York retains 50% of the contract remaining for Artemi Panarin, which is a little over $6 million, a little over $5 million, actually. And then he also signs a new 2-year deal at $11 million per season with LA when he goes there. I mean, initial reaction to that trade.
Oh, I think it was I think it was the same reaction as most of the hockey world, which was wow. I mean, good for him, good for the team. I think a little surprising is fair to say. But again, I mean, we talked about it a lot yesterday, man. There was a lot of nuance isn't even necessarily the right word, but just a lot of extracurriculars surrounding, that a lot of asks and demands from, multiple parties. And obviously a lot of those being from, him himself. So yeah, I mean, I would agree. I mean, I think my reaction was the same as most everybody, which was a little bit of a shock.
Yeah, I mean, at first I was like, oh, I remember doing a prospect on Liam Greentree, a prospect profile on Liam
Yeah.
Greentree a couple years ago. I was like, that's not bad if he's a rental, but I'm like, I don't think he's going to be a rental. So as time went on, like I learned more. Like Liam Greentree is having a down year after having a great year over in the WHL, and then he signs that very very fine extension. You're like, dang, that's a great deal for LA, and you're starting to wonder, like, man, how did they get away with this absolute steal of a trade? And you find out it's because reportedly this morning, Artemi Panarin's agent told Chris Drury that he only wants to go to LA, which basically wiped the field of competition and just plummeted his value. And I mean, these no move clauses, right? Like that's the reason Yzerman had no shot at him. Like Artemi Panarin has a no move clause, so he basically could force his way to the team that he wanted to go to.
Go wherever he wants. Yeah.
Go wherever he wants because he can nix a trade anywhere else. I think a lot of people may get on Panarin. Maybe Rangers fans are turning on Chris Drury about the situation. This is the danger of no movement clauses. Like they used the full no movement clause as a huge factor in attracting Artemi Panarin to the New York Rangers. This is the downside to when this situation doesn't work out and you need to move on from it. Like, in my opinion, these things are the fault of the general manager because when you hand out those, you can't be upset when a player exercises the contractual right that they have.
For sure. I'm not even sure fault is like it again. I mean, as you mentioned, giving out especially in hockey more than maybe any other sport, to be honest with you, a full no movement clause where the player just gets complete control over any, roster decision involving, him is pretty much ultimate power. And that is something that aren't thrown around, willy-nilly because of that, because that it is a lot of power. And in hockey, again, more than a lot of other sports, you can go from the top to the bottom pretty darn quickly. And you can have a bad year and have it all kind of blow up in your face pretty quick. And so, yeah, I'm not sure it's a fault. They needed to do it to bring him in. And what do they regret bringing him in? I don't think that they would say that they, would rather they didn't, sign him to that contract. But at the same time, I mean, certainly it's going to make trading him away a little bit more finicky and a little bit, you got to kind of tightrope whatever he wants along with what's best for the team. So, yeah, I mean, obviously you're right. It's just that's how these situations unfold when you give someone that power and then the team sucks.
Right. And I think the biggest surprise for me is the contract that he signed, right? Like the report last week was that he wanted $50 million. And that was the big sticking point when we had the conversation yesterday was I'm not comfortable giving him $50 million across 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years, whatever it is, to lower the cost. Like either you're paying him 3 years, which was the max I was comfortable giving for $16 million for an aging superstar. Like I'm not comfortable doing that. Or you're paying him for 5 years until he's 39, 40 at $10 million. And I'm like, either way, I'm not comfortable doing that. And then he signs for 2 years at $11 million. I'm like, that's a good deal. It's slightly less of a cap, slightly smaller number than he's making already based on cap percentage from when he signed. It's a pretty substantially smaller number when you think about it in that regard. And it's only 2 years, so you're done with him by the time his decline really becomes rapid, at least you would estimate. Sure. I'm like, this is you hesitate to call it a masterclass by Ken Holland because he was basically gifted Artemi Panarin. Like Yzerman was kind of gifted Alex DeBrincat, forced his way here. But I mean, we were talking about the wild card in Western Conference yesterday, and now with the addition of Artemi Panarin, I got to think it's Utah and LA.
Yeah, I mean, what are you going to apologize because the guy wants to play for you?
No, I don't apologize for getting DeBrincat.
Right, yeah, like you're going to take advantage of that. 10 times out of 10 with a player of that caliber. Yeah, I mean, and the thing with the Kings, man, is that's not like we need Panarin for a one last dance situation. Like there's still a young core in place there that really could I think sustain this going forward. We've kind of seen the buildup, I guess, over the last 3 or 4 years, and see them become more and more competitive year in and year out. And obviously Byfield, when he's healthy, was a big part of that in that Raymond draft. So yeah, I mean I don't know. It's a fun young team that's now adding. And they certainly have, already their veterans in place and whatnot, but they're adding more to what's already a pretty darn good team, and a team that should be good in the future as well. So,
all right, Scotty, we're gonna head to our Friday episode. I mean, not technically wrong, but I totally was transitioning as if we were going to a break.
I mean, you're not, but that you've never said that before. That has never been how you've ended the show ever.
We've been doing this for 4 years. I guarantee you I did that at least one time.
And I probably gave you crap for it when you did it then, too. So
yeah, and I deserved it then, too.
I agree. I'm glad we're on the same page.
Scotty, any final thoughts?
We ball, baby.
We do ball. We'll be back with a new episode tomorrow. I think we're going to do a mailbag, and we have an email address now, so I'll shoot that out. It's probably going to be easier to sift through mailbag questions via email, so I'll shoot that out in the morning.
Put them in the YouTube comment section and make Brian sift through all that, too.
I mean, if we don't get that many emails, I'm going to be doing that. So you can do that, too, if you want. I would prefer email, but if I get desperate, I will look there, too.
Make Brian's life harder.
You do that every single day. Same time, same place.
I think you've made that
your
exact
team every day. More than likely. We are not original.